I got to put into perspective for you all the moving parts in Washington, D.C. right now because it's kind of a complicated mess. You've got a bipartisan infrastructure plan that's about $1 trillion. Then there is a reconciliation package where all the stuff the Republicans wouldn't agree to, the Democrats are going to try to fit in a separate piece of legislation. On top of that, the debt ceiling is going to have to be raised to pay for a lot of this stuff. And the Democrats can't get everything they want into their reconciliation plan because of the pay-fors. Now, let me explain this process to you. Under reconciliation, you typically have 2 bites at the apple in a year. The Democrats are trying for a third one based on a parliamentary ruling in the Senate that would involve restructuring the budget and then passing something to change all of the pay-fors in the budget. And what is a pay-for? A pay-for is how are you going to pay for it? To get something through reconciliation in the Senate that is to bypass the filibuster, reconciliation is a budgetary vote that bypasses the filibuster. You can put a bunch of stuff in it, but you cannot bust the budget. You cannot have a deleterious effect on the budget. The Republicans were able to pass their tax cuts through reconciliation in 2017 because of the way they restructured the state and local tax proposition and other things to make it deficit neutral. The Democrats are going to have to come up with pay-fors for their $3.5 trillion plan. Let me read for you some of the ideas the Democrats are proposing to pay for their $3.5 trillion. One is to kill the Medicare rebate rule. Democrats, this is from Politico, think they could scrounge up $180 billion by rolling back a pharmaceutical policy Donald Trump finalized in his presidency. If they succeed in scrapping the rule, drug makers could continue to give pharmacies money to ensure their medicines get choice placement on Medicare plans. The rebates can be as much as half the drug sticker price. And while they're not passed directly to consumers, insurers argue they use savings to keep premiums low. Some Republicans in Congress are warming to the idea of ditching the rebate policy and allowing prescription perks to go on. In other words, ultimately, you're going to hurt Medicare, but who cares? Raiding IRAs. Democrats are horrified hundreds of Americans have IRAs worth more than $25 million. 30,000 Americans have accounts with balances topping $5 million, while many others have little to no retirement savings. Going after mega IRA accounts. That's right. You may have saved all of this money, and you may have $5 million in your IRA. The Democrats want to tax your IRA because you saved money, and now they want to punish you. They also want to roll back the corporate tax rate. They want to undo the corporate tax rate. The question is, by how much do they want to do it? Biden wants to raise it to 28% from the current 21%. That's too high for most Democrats. Joe Manchin has said he supports a rate in the mid-20s, but not 28%. They also want to hike the top corporate or the top individual income tax rate. So basically, the Democrats want to do what Democrats always want to do. They want to raid your retirement funds. They want to increase the capital gains tax, increase the top income tax bracket, and increase the top corporate tax. That's what they want to do to drive up the money. And they're still not sure that they could save everything they want to do under reconciliation because, again, it's got to be deficit neutral based on a 10-year projection. So maybe, possibly they can. The problem, though, is that you've got Democrats doing this headed into 2022. One of the Democrats' top researchers, who has ties to Clinton and Obama, is starting to worry Democrats could lose the Senate next year, not just the House. The odds are they're going to lose the House, and there are growing odds that they could lose the Senate. And he and other Democrats, the Brunswick Group is the consulting firm, they're starting to raise the red flag that the Senate is at play, including Raphael Warnock in Georgia. Raphael Warnock's polling in Georgia has gone down. There are a number of polls out. I just got one this morning. I saw independent, non-Republican pollster showing that he would lose to Herschel Walker. Of course, that's before all the oppo hits on Herschel Walker, but still, the fact that Warnock, his polling, and again, let me caveat this. We know the polling's terrible. But if you have a poll that has Warnock over 50%, and you poll the same demographic of people, you have the same statistical sample, and it shows him going down, well, you may not know where he is, but you can certainly see the trend line. And Warnock's trending down in the polling and has been pretty consistently in Georgia. And he's actually becoming one of the more vulnerable Democrats in the U.S. Senate. And the Republicans have to sort out who is going to run against him. Ron Johnson, the Republican from Wisconsin, may not be running again. That actually helps the Republicans in Wisconsin. There are a number of other seats out there, including Mark Kelly in Arizona, where the Republicans have some advantages that they could. Remember, they only need to pick up a seat or two. And they're in the dominant position there. And the media will always tell you, particularly in a year like this, given that Republicans are on defense, they will have more seats up for re-election than the Democrats. And in some of their seats, they're in states that Donald Trump lost. They're vulnerable, more vulnerable than the Democrats, but it's not a sure thing. The Republicans could still potentially win. And that just throws a monkey wrench into Joe Biden's agenda altogether. And there's the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling fight is coming. They cannot tie the debt ceiling to reconciliation. Them's the rules in the Senate. Republicans could potentially filibuster the debt ceiling increase and hijack the Democratic agenda and force budget cuts like they did with sequestration under Barack Obama. You get sequestration back, you force the government to cut money. You force the government to cut money, suddenly a lot of Joe Biden's agenda is off the table. I mean, say what you will about Obama and the Republicans during the last debt ceiling fight, but the Republicans were able to force Barack Obama into a budget that made real world cuts, not cuts of future growth, but actual real cuts. Now, what Obama tried to do was cut the Defense Department. Republicans have to be careful about that happening, but there are plenty of areas where the government could be cut. And frankly, there are some parts of the Defense Department that could be cut. You just got to tread carefully in how you do it. There's a lot on the agenda in the next couple of months as they sort through this stuff. The debt ceiling, though, if it doesn't get raised, the government has to pretty much stop everything other than debt service very quickly. I'm wondering if maybe Republicans should force a fight on the debt ceiling. Might as well. The Democrats never do because the Democrats always want more money. But why can't the Republicans who claim they're worried about the national debt actually raise a fuss about the debt ceiling and block it temporarily from going up? They ultimately will always cave on the debt ceiling because of the full faith and credit clause of the Constitution. But why not pick a fight? Why not at least slow the growth of government? You've done it. You did it to Obama. Why not do it to Biden?